Hey, so good morning, everyone. Welcome to this webinar on Croatian Perspectives on the renewable heating and cooling market that is hosted by the European Technology and Innovation Platform on renewable heating and cooling. I'm Giulia Cittadini, and I'm policy advisor at EGEC, and today I will moderate this webinar. And let's start with to look at the agenda. So, my colleague Leonie Kuhlmann will provide us with a bit of introduction of this ETIP, and then we will move on with the presentation from our experts. And then finally we will have time for a bit of discussion. So feel free to write your questions in the chat, and then we will collect some of them, and we will pose some questions to our experts. Just a bit on how this platform works. It's a recorded webinar, and as I said, please feel free to write your question to the chat, and the recording will be available in a few days, and as well the slides. And now I will pass the floor to my colleague, Leonie Kuhlmann.
Thank you, Julia. So indeed, now I'm going to go with you through the RHC platform and what this platform actually is. On this next slide, you can already see a QR code, which if you want, you can scan and will bring you to our website. But let me also give you some remarks. So the RHC platform is part of the European Technology and Innovation Platform ETIP since 2016. And it brings together stakeholders from the biomass, geothermal, solar thermal, district heating, and heat pump sector to define a common strategy for increasing the use of renewable energy technologies for the heating and cooling sector. Thereby, it aims to showcase that renewable energy technologies for heating and cooling are safe, clean, efficient, and increasingly cost competitive. As a result, society will benefit from the increasing contribution of renewable heating and cooling in the European Union. And the platform combines improved and new technologies, but also innovation and development, as well as policy, funding, and pilot projects. Here you can see our partners. So we are a consortium of 6 different organizations: EGEC, Solar Heat Europe, as you can see here, Euroheat and Power, the European Heat Pump Association, WIP, and of course our organization EGEC. The goals of our platform are the following. So first, we want to develop working relationships with other relevant national and regional platforms, so other ETIPs. Second, establish and update strategic research and innovation agendas per technology area, from basic research to market update and identifying priorities in the short, medium, and long term. Third, the goal is to identify priorities of cross-cutting nature, such as education and training, socioeconomic aspects, and international cooperation. Fourth, we want to identify innovation barriers, notably those related to regulation and financing. And lastly, the fifth goal is to report on the implementation of research and innovation activities at the European, national, and industry level. We have different tools of our platform. So for instance, you can see here the RHC project database, again, another QR code which brings you to this website. So the objective of this database is to track past and ongoing projects in the area of renewable heating and cooling, and to create synergies between different projects and sectors. Of course, we here set the focus on project funded at the EU level, and whenever possible, also the project results will be shared on this project database. I would also like to introduce the RHC Accelerator platform. You will see the website is still under development, but it will be available very soon. And the idea of this accelerator platform is to bridge the gap between research projects and market-ready solutions. And it's a database of research projects seeking expert assistance to become market-ready products, as well as a directory of investors and experts who want to become project developers. The platform gives an overview on relevant funding schemes for heating and cooling projects, information on EU legislation impacting the sector, and also national contact points directory. So if you are an expert of one of our renewable heating and cooling solutions or an investment company, please have a look. We included another QR code here where you can already register as an expert or an investor for our database. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Loni, for this presentation. And now let's start with this with the discussion of our experts. And we will start with Mathieu Balleux. He's a policy officer from DG Ener, the European Commission, and he will provide us today an overview of EU policy on decarbonization of heating and cooling. So, Mathieu, the floor it's yours.
Thank you, Julia. Good morning, all. It's a pleasure to join you today. I would indeed like to present a bit the background on the policy side for the seeing from the perspective of the European Commission. I'm trying to change the slides. Here you are. First of all, why is heating and cooling so important for us? I think by now there's a realization on the policymaker side as well that that you have to look specifically at the decarbonization of heating and cooling, and that it's not just a side issue, but a major story of our efforts to reach energy and climate goals and to achieve energy security. Heating and cooling accounts for about half of all the energy we use in the EU, and it's still mostly fossil, and it's still, as the main part of that fossil, based on natural gas. So issues of decarbonization, but also on import dependency. And this is a sector where the progress on decarbonization and the progress of renewable energy in particular has been slower than, for instance, for electricity. Over the past years, the European Commission has worked with the European Parliament and with member states on a whole new architecture of legislation on climate and energy under the Fit for 55 exercise. And a lot of what came out of that process affects directly heating and cooling, and it's addressed in several new pieces of EU legislation, from the entry points of energy efficiency, of renewable energy, of buildings. So I'll briefly present this and explain what is the framework under which we work at the moment and why it matters. So first of all, we're working based on the concept of what the energy system of tomorrow will look like. And our understanding of that system has changed completely. The ambition of the EU here, this is an example on the left, on renewable energy, for instance, has for 2030 has changed completely. The first target that was discussed for 2030 back in 2014 was a share of 27% of renewables in the energy system of the EU. You will remember that for 2020, we had that 20-20-20 set of climate and energy objectives with a 20% target for renewables in 2020. And the first time it was discussed for 2030, the level that was discussed was 27%. And with the years, with further discussions, that ambition for 2030 was raised to 32%, 40%, and with the current Renewable Energy Directive, we're working towards a share of renewables in the whole energy economy of 42.5%. So we have tripled the level of ambition for 2030 within a few years. So our understanding of what is possible technically and politically has completely changed. This is because we also know much better how that energy system of the future will look like and how to operate it. We know that it will be much more decentralized, much more circular, with much more reuse of energy, waste heat in particular. We have heat pumps that are at the interface between electricity and heat. In your buildings, in your cars, you will store energy, you will produce energy in your buildings, and all of this we know much more how to do. It requires a lot of planning, it requires very good anticipation, but we know what it will look like. And heat is at the core of that. So we know what we need to achieve this. We need a better integrated planning of our networks, electricity networks, heat. The district heating has a central place in that future energy system, gas networks at EU, national and local level. maximizing all the opportunities for energy efficiency, electrifying, converting inefficient uses of fossil energy to the direct use of electricity, and using the flexibility potential that we have, especially on the side of the heating and cooling system, from district heating, from heat pumps, by moving the time when they use electricity, from heat storage, boosting the sources of renewable heat, geothermal heat, solar thermal, and using all the possibilities to recover waste or excess heat. So we already have now a massive policy architecture in place, and it's a big challenge to implement it correctly. So I'll just give a few examples of what we have put in place at EU level, which now all member states have to translate into national law and make sure that it's actually implemented. Some elements are in the Energy Efficiency Directive, with, for instance, the requirement for all municipalities above 45,000 inhabitants to develop local heating and cooling plans. I think there are 7 or 9 in Croatia, for instance. So this will really give you that knowledge of the source of sustainable heat, the demand, and how to better match that at local level, but also requirement to better do that planning at national level. So we'll have that full map at all levels. There are new requirements for a trajectory of decarbonization of the district heating and cooling networks, which will have to use an increasing share of renewable energy and waste heat to be able to benefit from public funding between today and 2050. This is a full decarbonization trajectory for district heating. Then there's the directive on renewable energy, where there are new targets for renewable heating and cooling, binding targets for member states, but also new targets to increase the share of renewables in buildings, in district heating again. Simpler rules for the permitting of projects. We know that renewable energy projects often face very long administrative procedures. So for heat pumps, including for large heat pumps, there are new deadlines and new requirements to simplify that process. There's a principle of heat purchase agreements to give us long-term certainty, both to the provider of heat and the buyer. There are requirements for member states to look at the available skills and the available jobs to install, to maintain the renewable energy installations, including renewable heat, and to make sure that that there are measures in place to bridge a possible gap. And there are requirements for that integrated planning that I mentioned, to make sure that electricity system operators take into account all the services that district heating systems can provide in terms of flexibility, so that we don't build outsized grids, or that the whole system is planned in the most efficient way that allows, in particular, district heating systems to be rewarded for the flexibility services that they can provide. The last aspect that I want to mention is around buildings, and space heating in general, with the new directive on the energy performance of buildings. It gives some important signals on the use of fossil fuels, with, for instance, that already entered into force this year, the end of, so member states cannot provide financial incentives for standalone boilers powered by fossil fuels anymore. Member states have to plan national policies and measures towards the phasing out of fossil boilers through their national building renovation plans by 2040. So there's a trajectory, there's a visibility on where we want to go. Zero emission buildings, so buildings that will have to have zero on-site emissions from fossils, that will have to use a very low amount of energy, that will need to be supplied by renewables, carbon-free or efficient district heating. Those will have to become the norm for all buildings. 2028 for public buildings owned by public authorities, 2030 for all new buildings. This is also very challenging as for implementation, for delivery, but it really gives that pathway for the decarbonization. There are also lots of measures for the promotion of low temperature heating systems. So with that whole new architecture that has been put in place, part of the job has been done. The signals are here, but now the biggest challenge is in front of us. It's the actual delivery. And that's what we are working on, and that has been put as a priority for this European Commission, how to help member states, how to help local authorities, how to help other stakeholders, make sure that this framework is implemented correctly and that we actually reap the benefits of this whole system. So we have many fora in place for consultations, to provide support with member states. We're working on good practice to try to identify what can be replicated, and feedback from stakeholders, from all of you, is also essential in helping us do that. The last point I would like to mention is what comes next, because in the broader perspective, the new commission that just started to work at the end of last year already announced some new initiatives which are directly relevant for heating and cooling. So, for instance, before the end of this month, we will present an action plan on affordable energy, so a key element of the EU Clean Industrial Deal. So there, the objective is to exploit every tool, every avenue to lower energy costs in the short term. But it's also important that we stay the course and that we make structural decisions that will make us ready for the future. So we will also look into how to make infrastructure more resilient, to continue the integration of energy markets, to support our EU industrial value chains like heat pumps, geothermal, solar thermal. We are also preparing a clean energy investment strategy, because we know that the investment needs for the energy sector are massive. We're talking about more than 507 billion euros every year by 2030, almost 700 billion every year in the next decade. So how to make this happen, and what kind of tools are the best adapted. And it's also a matter of energy security. I mentioned that heating and cooling is largely gas fueled at the moment in the EU. We will present a roadmap towards ending all imports from Russia, and also towards fully implementing what we have adopted in the past. We will know more this week, because we expect the European Commission to adopt its work program for 2025. I cannot tell you much more than what is here, but I'm very looking forward to the discussion with you and happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mathieu. Thank you for this this overview. I think it's quite of a challenge now for the Commission to see the energy system of tomorrow, but we are happy that it managed to triple, actually, the level of ambition by 2030, as you said. A lot of legislation has been provided in the last years, and now it's indeed time to implement it. So we look forward to see how the Commission will support the implementation of this legislation, but also to see what this new initiative that you described, what will imply, for at the EU level. But let's move on to the next speaker. I'm pleased to introduce you to Ivan Prutzl. Sorry for my pronunciation. He's an expert advisor at the Northwest Croatia Regional Energy Climate Agency. And in his presentation, we will focus on a new project, D2Heat, for decarbonizing Croatian district heating sector. Ivan, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hope you can hear me well. Yeah, all good. Great. Well, Julia and all platform team, many thanks for the invite and the opportunity to speak today at the National Roundtable. I'm Ivan. I'm an expert advisor in REGEA. It's an energy and climate agency from Croatia, and today I will share some insights, some findings and outputs of an ongoing European project called D2Heat. Specifically, I would like to share some specifics regarding decarbonization, identified decarbonization measures of a district heating sector in the country. But just in a minute, who we are, who REGEA is. So we were founded in 2008 Today we have more than 50 employees, mainly technical engineers, and our focus is consultancy services provided to public and private sector. And our focus is energy efficiency and renewable energy sources in infrastructure, building sector, and mobility as well. So just quick info about the project. It's practically a support facility. It's a PDA. And what does it mean? It's not a soft EU project. We got money for technical assistance for all the preparatory work that needs to be done. But at the end of the project, we need to deliver investments. So we are quite motivated to do it. So the project started in late 2022. We are now in a final project stage. And besides these know-how partners, we are really focused on 4 district heating operators shown here on the illustration on the slide that practically sum up 98% of the whole district heating sector on a national level. So these 4 are also partners, and we work closely with them. Few words also on challenges today in the sector. Unfortunately, rigid legislation in place, regulated heating price also, and then limited own financial resources from district heating operators as a result of this regulated pricing scheme. And lastly, just to mention, we are still lacking funding sources, either from national or EU sources. We are lacking grants for the sector at the moment. So these are practically the challenges today. So why PDA? Why project itself? It's a practically one-stop shop. So we tried to deliver all consultancy services to these 4 district heating operators, from technical, financial, and legal consultancy, to prepare the investments, to prepare the decarbonization and transition towards the fossil fuel-free working operation. Just shortly, for all of them, we did very detailed decarbonization studies. So we screened the baseline data. We presented all possible combination and measures of the investments, like mentioned heat pumps, etc. We guide them through what is the best financial and funding scheme. We provided all the templates for the tender as well. So everything is standardized and everything is ready for them. So with this project, we are not giving grants to the measure itself, but we are securing all the preparation of these transition measures in their operation. That's very, very important from my perspective. Now, numbers and figures. This is one of the biggest district heating operators, one of the partners, Plinarstvo. Here are some numbers, but I'll just highlight a few. So total energy delivered yearly is 1.7 terawatt hours, basically in few bigger cities of Croatia. They have more than almost 400 kilometers of district heating network in place, and roughly 120,000 end consumers are under their networks. These other 3 bit smaller ones also use fossil fuel as a primary energy source. Practically have 20,000 end users under the network, and around 35 kilometers of a heating grid in place. So what we did for them, we analyzed the current business baseline scenario, and we practically guide them through how to decarbonize, how to achieve all the targets in place from Energy Efficiency Directive that Matthew just presented a few minutes ago. And these are just 2 of most important years for our perspective, 2 milestones that needs to be reached. 2035, and 2050. So at the end, in 2050, all of these sectors need to be fossil fuels, zero emission, and it's basically the end of a fossil fuel era in the sector. In 2035, to achieve the targets, we need to practically unite distribution networks in Zagreb. We need to utilize geothermal energy there, and we need to also build large-scale wastewater heat pump in the water utility here in Zagreb. So all of that is needed to achieve the targets. In 2050, again, more of the geothermal is something that we need to highlight. But also large-scale waste heat from cities' waste treatment plant needs to be built. So these are practically very, very big projects, and they are communicated with all of the companies under the HEP group itself. When it comes to measures identified in these three, let's say, smaller operators, again, I would like to stress that heat pumps on wastewater utilities are the main source of the transition and decarbonization. Here are some numbers and figures. In Karlovac, it's 7 megawatt of thermal energy, in Rijeka 18, and in Slavonski Brod 8. And basically, with hitting the target in 2035, with these heat pumps, they will achieve more than 80% of renewable energy sources in place. So they will practically hit target, let's say, for 2050, but still missing few measures there. Again, we analyzed the PV systems needed to supply the heat pump with electricity. Power purchase agreements also there are highlighted, and the large-scale heat temperature vacuums of solar thermal fields have been taken in account. So all of these are quite in-depth analyzed in these studies, with benefit, capital expenditure, payback periods, levelized cost of heat, etc. So these are practically very roughly sums of the results in the studies. So again, as Matthew introduced, this is a very important thing to mention, Energy Efficiency Directive. We have these targets, and in Croatia, in these 4 district heating operators, we need around 250 million euros to hit the target in 2035, and to decarbonize the sector, additional 750 million euros for 2050. So basically what we plan to do from today's around 2 terawatt hours, we will lower with energy efficiency and renewable sources, we'll lower that to 1.3. And then from 1.3, we plan to set the target to 0 terawatt hours from fossil fuels. Obviously, they'll need energy, but from fossil fuels, there'll be none. Again, just to mention, we analyzed funding and the financing models to secure or to reach levelized cost of heat that consumers pay today. And this is very roughly numbers, please take in account. They differ from city to city. In Zagreb is lower, but again, just to present something, to hit the target of 50 euros per megawatt hour that today consumers practically pay, we need to secure ground at least 50% to hit the targets in 2035. So as I mentioned, funding, we are also very focused on this topic for the last couple of years. I need to mention that we closely cooperate with our ministries. Specifically, we are trying to set up a sectorial call from modernization fund and communicate this program to EIB. So we have been working closely with them on the last couple of months, and we have delivered everything. I hope that communication and final negotiation is in place with EIB at the moment. So these are unofficial program framework numbers and figures. Take into account these are not final. So we have managed to showcase all of these investments to the ministry, and they agreed to secure 80 million euros grant component for the investment. with the average co-funding rate around 50. It's the de minimis rule. It depends of the companies, it's bigger, smaller, etc. And the funds, I hope, will be available at the end of this year. Keep my fingers crossed. Also, we helped the heating operators to allocate the equity needed. So they will probably get 50% from the grant, but they have to secure their own funds. So we are in negotiation with national banks to support them, but also we are heavily promoting green bonds as a source of funding for these investments, because they fit perfectly in this. Most of these companies are city-owned, so these three smaller ones are practically 100% city-owned. On the other hand, we have HEP. It's a government company. It's situated basically in Zagreb and other cities, but the city doesn't have any influence or ownership, so it's quite challenging to promote and to motivate HEP at this moment. So overall findings, 1 billion euro needed in Croatia for the sector. We have very large geothermal potential. In the Zagreb area alone, around 1.2 terawatt hours. If I add geothermal potential from city of Karlovac area, it's even more. Wastewater heat pumps are basically solutions for smaller district heating operators. In all of them, this is the #1 measure identified. And I hope we will have a chance to utilize modernization fund as a key grant source for the measures. This is my last slide. I hope I'm on time. I would like just to mention two ongoing European projects. As Matthew mentioned, in a couple of years in Croatia, we will have an obligation that cities or municipalities larger than 45 inhabitants will need to deliver heating and cooling plans. So in these two projects, the goal is the same. We need to deliver the templates, methodologies, and standardization process of delivering the heating and cooling plans. So we will practically pilot in city of Rijeka on CHEM project, and in Escalate, I think in Slavonski Brod and Karlovac, we will deliver a heating and cooling plan in about a year. We will promote the standardized approach to the ministry itself. And I think under these two projects in 10 countries, the principle of creating heating and cooling will be unique and standardized. So this is something that we need to work on in the next couple of months heavily. So this project just started. We have a few years to deliver the standardization methodology and how to create heating and cooling plan, and then to promote it. So if you want to know more about the D2Heat, please visit our webpage, and I'm here for any of your questions today.
Thank you, Ivan, for sharing the information on D2Heat. It was quite interesting. So we started with an overview of what are the goals set by the European Commission. And with you, we saw what are the concrete measures to achieve these goals for decarbonization. So what's quite complementing what Mathieu introduced to us. So the challenge is investments indeed. And we can agree on this, definitely. And you mentioned a lot of geothermal potential. So I think this gives the floor to the next speakers that I'm pleased to introduce. Martina Tursk. She's Director of Geothermal Energy Sector at Croatian Hydrocarbon Agency and also EGEC board member. She will provide, of course, more insights on geothermal energy in Croatia. So Martina, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Julia. Good morning, everybody. I'm very pleased that I have opportunity to present insight into the Croatian geothermal energy, and I'm very pleased that lately, we cannot speak about decarbonization and heating and cooling electricity sector without mentioning geothermal. So I will give you a little overview about Croatian geothermal potential, activities that we are conducting under the National Recovery and Resilience Plan, and some good examples in Croatia where we are using geothermal energy for the heating purposes. So as many of you already know, Croatia have a significant geothermal potential because we are happy to be in northern part of Croatia in Pannonian Basin. Our geothermal gradient has been proven in this area, and in some areas, in some wells and special geological structures, we can say that geothermal gradient is around 6 degrees on 100 meters. So this is potential, and it is must be unlocked for the much more usage in heating, cooling, and electricity production. So knowing that, we started to promote and to unlock this potential by analyzing all the data that we have. Since we have a long history in Croatia over the oil and gas industry, we have a lot of data regarding the wells drilled for the oil and gas that find the water and that were not very interesting at that time that the water was found. And we have a lot of seismic data. So analysis could be done. The legislation in recently years, let's say for now, which longer period in Croatia, we inline a legislation period. So for the geothermal exploration and production, there is very straight, transparent legal framework. So all the investors know their obligations, they know all the steps, and it is very easy to follow. And from our side, it has not been any complaints from the investors that the process for exploration of geothermal energy has make some stops or some problems in the implementation of the projects. So in the recent years, well, let's say last 5 to 6 years, we issued a lot of tenders for exploration of geothermal potential. And now we have 12 exploitation fields. That means it is proven geothermal potential, and investors are starting their activities toward production and usage of this geothermal energy. At the same time, we are having 23 licenses for exploration of geothermal energy that are at some different stages of exploration. So we can say these are also all promising areas. For these exploration fields, it's interesting to say that we can say it's 50-50. Geothermal exploration is aiming electricity production and heating purposes. So for the heating purposes, I'm very proud to say that a lot of local communities recognize geothermal energy like energy source for their communities to use it. And so they are conducting the activities to implement geothermal into their heating systems. Also, we are very proud of 2024 because we have 4 commercial discoveries in last years, most of them for the heating purposes with very good results. Because it is, as you may know, for the geothermal energy, it is not only important to find the right temperature at some depth of the reservoir, it's also important to find adequate flow so that energy can be produced at these conditions. In order to increase this usage of geothermal energy specifically for the heating purposes, Croatian Hydrocarbon Agency conducted the project funded by the European Union under the Recovery and Resilience Plan. And we are conducting de-risking of 6 areas with activities such as seismic acquisition, magnetotelluric, and we are going to drill 4 wells. The project was funded by more than 50 millions, and now we are, let's say, in the middle of the project. So what is our aim? We shoot the seismic over the 6 areas. All areas are near the cities with the existing central heating network. And after analyzing this area, we decided to drill 4 wells. So we choose Velika Gorica, Zaprešić, Osijek, and Vinkovci. These are all cities with existing heating network and with proven geothermal potential. So when we are talking about Velika Gorica, geothermal exploration well is designed to reach 2 key targets. Our primary target in Velika Gorica lies within lithothamnium limestones and exceeds a depth of approximately 2,000 meters. Based on the data from nearby wells, we anticipate good reservoir properties and temperatures reaching around 90 degrees. Our secondary target is deeper at approximately 2,700 meters with dolomites and fracture basement target. Given the greater depths, we expect temperatures to rise to 130 degrees Celsius, along with promising reservoir characteristics that could support significant geothermal potential. In the area of Osijek, predicted well depth is at 2,000 meters, and the Osijek exploration well has 1 target, and it is expected at the depth of approximately 190 within a basement in the neogen layers. So based on surrounding wells, we are expecting temperatures around 100 degrees Celsius. In the Vinkovci area, forecasted final well depth is around 2,050 meters. Our primary target in Vinkovci is anticipated at a depth of approximately 800 meters within the low to middle Mias and Breča conglomerates, where we expect reservoir temperatures to reach around 100 degrees Celsius. Additionally, we aim to reach secondary target at estimated depth of 2,300 meters in neogen basement. Here, reservoir temperatures, of course, are projected to be higher, so we are expecting more than 130 degrees Celsius temperatures at this depth. In Zaprešić area, we are targeting the final well depth approximately also 2,050 meters. And at 2,000 meters, we are expecting to reach dolomite reservoir with temperatures of 120 degrees Celsius, presenting a significant geothermal opportunity. Additionally, our secondary target lies at the shallower depth of approximately 150 meters with lithothamnium limestones, where we anticipate slightly lower temperatures of around 75 degrees Celsius. It is important to emphasize that all these projects, a smaller part of overall projects, are being developed in the cities with existing central heating system. Also, we can say that Velika Gorica and Zaprešić area, they are wider area of Zagreb, so it could also be look at this context. All these towns are still using fossil fuels for the district heating. This is not just about only modernization, it is a necessary transition of the heating system to renewable sources. So when we are talking about numbers and the impact that this geothermal energy in the heating sector will produce, we are talking about in Velika Gorica, well, the system covers around 6,000 households. Osijek area is much larger. It's reaching almost 12,000 households. And in Vinkovci area, the system serves around 2,000 households. So we are trying to do this like a strategic planning for the broader impact of geothermal energy, not just for the heating homes, but for developing economic zones near geothermal wells and in areas where untapped geothermal potential exists. We are hoping not only to stop and on the heating system and on this number, but to increase these numbers in the future. Regarding the projects, as I already mentioned, we already shoot some seismic, precisely almost 200 kilometers of 2D seismic over these 6 areas. We shoot magnetotellurics, and like some exclusive news, I can announce that in Velika Gorica, by the end of this month, we are starting to drill our first well. So well site is in preparation, as you can see on this picture, and the drilling rig will be on the site, and we are expecting first results from Velika Gorica around June. So, oh, sorry. Can I go back? Julia, help.
Yes, I think you are managing to going back. We see the slides
No,
moving.
not so much, not so much. Sorry for the... Okay.
Perfect.
And perfect, thank you. So a little bit about successful projects that has been implemented in the past. I may say that this is very small steps using of deep geothermal energy. When I'm talking about geothermal, maybe to emphasize that we are talking about deep geothermal energy. We have some good stories for using the geothermal in agriculture, especially in hydroponic tomato growing. So we have 2 fields, 2 tomato facilities. It is in the Slavonia, in the eastern part of Croatia, and in Sveta Nedelja, nearby Zagreb, where you can see that reservoir that is applicable for the agricultural growth. It's rather shallow. It's around 1,000 meters, and based on the reservoir properties, well flow is around 20 liters from the reservoir with the outlet temperature of 65 degrees Celsius. Each of these hydroponic tomato growing, it's on 5 hectares, and they can be utilizing much more energy, but for now this is something that serves their production. When we are talking, as Ivan already mentioned, Zagreb, there is exploitation field in the city of Zagreb. That has in total 15 wells drilled in the 80s and early 90s. And it is also very good reservoir in lithotemium limestone and dolomites at a depth of around 800 to 1,000 meters with very good flow properties. So it is implemented geothermal energy from this reservoir is implemented in the sports center, faculty, and student dormitory. And as you can see by number, the Zagreb geothermal field can be utilized for much more households and buildings than it is now. So it is, let's say, the way the project can be developed much wider. Another great example of using of geothermal energy is the city of Topusko. It's a small city. It is called Topusko Smart Thermal City. And we can see by the financing, good management, they managed to do something impossible. So we have a heating from geothermal energy of the facility of Topusko Health Resort and Hospital, together with school, churches, business user, and private homes. This is Topusko Reservoir is somehow geological curiosity because depths of the wells are the deepest well is on 243 meters. and the output temperature is 65 degrees Celsius. So this is something very unusual and very good properties for the usage of the geothermal energy. I would like to say that this is not the case everywhere, but these cases can be also found and geothermal energy can be implemented in this case. So together with a very good year, last year that we have in discoveries in the city, in the area of Korenovo, which is in the nearby city of Bjelovar, where we are expecting the great development of usage of geothermal energy. Then in Križevci area, Lipik and Lunjkovec Kutnjak. We are hoping that much more cities will use geothermal energy and convert their heating system. As Matthias and Matthew and Ivan already said, we need great funding for this project, especially for the deep geothermal energy, and cities are ready to start these activities, which are very let's say technically challenging and budgetary challenging. So this is something that we have to support them to continue these great projects and great stories that they started with usage of geothermal energy. So thank you very much. If you want to see something more about our project, because we got a lot of nice videos from our website, or read about the projects in Croatia, you can also go to our web page or just contact us for the further information. Thank you.
Thank you, Martina. I think it was really good to see that things are moving on in Croatia. We have new projects coming, and but also I think it's quite important to see that Croatia was able to put in place, as you say, the transparent legal framework that it's easy to follow, no? To be followed by investors. So it's a good sign and can be a best practice for other European countries to replicate. But now let's move to heat pumps. And I'm pleased to introduce you to Luka Boban, who is assistant professor at the University of Zagreb and who is going to indeed navigate heat pump sector towards renewable heating and cooling. Luka, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Julia, and greetings to all of you following us online. I hope you can hear me well. I got a notice that my internet connection is not very stable, so if I stop for a second, just warn me, so I will turn off my camera to make it smoother. Thank you very much. I will try to showcase what is the current trend on the heat pump market, hopefully to help navigate the sector towards renewable heating and cooling to exploit the full potential of the heat pumps. I will start off with a position in Croatia in terms of its location and I would say climatic conditions. If we compare cooling degree and heating degree days of Croatia with other EU members, we can see that we have slightly larger cooling needs and slightly smaller heating needs. Therefore, Therefore, we need both heating and cooling to secure year-round comfort in our buildings and the built environment we are using. Like it was mentioned on the first slide, residential sector and the building in totals are responsible for major component of energy consumption in EU, so of course in Croatia. Residential sector, for example, in Croatia is responsible, in residential sector around 80% of the energy is consumed for the heating, cooling and domestic hot water preparation. If you observe energy sources, we can see there is a noticeable share of fossil fuels in residential and non-residential sector, but also we have large share of biomass and electricity as energy sources for the energy consumption. But it's important to say that this 23% of electricity does not mean that we use a lot of heat pumps. This is electricity used for appliances and for direct electric resistance heaters. Heat pumps are covered in this light green bar, including all other renewable energy sources. As for the biomass, it also includes large share of, I would say, inefficient log wood furnaces and not very efficient biomass boilers. So basically, heat pump role in heating systems is not just to reduce carbon content in terms of the fossil fuel, but also to, I would say, change the inefficient heating energy devices to make our heating and cooling not just renewable energy based, but also as efficient as possible. Similar conclusions can be made for the non-residential and industry sector, but the residential sector is put into focus in this presentation because due its large share in energy consumption. If you compare few, I would say, statistical data about Croatia to maybe visualize capital and operating expenses for the heat pumps, we can see by the heating degree days and the price ratio of electricity and gas that Croatia falls on, I would say, bottom part of the curve that is showing the penetration rate of the heat pumps in different countries in EU. We don't have exact data for Croatia. This is the data from the EHPA's market report, but we can see that, I would say, potential from the energy savings of very efficient systems is limited if we don't have, I would say, favorable ratio of electricity over gas as the main competitor in heating systems. Also, if we observe real GDP per capita of Croatia, we can see also the purchasing power is limited compared to more developed countries. So basically, if we combine this with, I would say, high value added tax for the heat pumps. Sorry, my presentation is a little bit not following me as I want. Okay, now I went too far. Sorry. Then the market conditions, we could describe them as challenging for the heat pump sector. We have high VAT. On the other hand, we have, thankfully, lower prices for electricity and gas compared to majority of EU members. Still, this doesn't mean that we don't have heat pumps on the heating market. They are installed, they are preferred as an option, but for higher penetration, I think the market conditions should be more favorable towards this kind of renewable system. As for the building sector, residential sector accounts for 70% of total built area. So rest of is commercial and public buildings. We have majority of residents living in urban areas where we are facing effects of climate change in terms of more focus put on the cooling, in terms of higher number of hot days and hot nights. If we observe the image on the bottom right corner, we can see that in 10 years, share of air-conditioned apartments raised from around 30% to more than 50%. I think in the last few years, this number increased maybe to 60%. So basically, it's not just about the heating. If we want comfort all year round, we need to also consider a systematic approach to heating and to cooling. And this is where the heat pumps really work well. Our residential sector also constitutes large share of multifamily buildings. Around 35% of them are multifamily, large buildings. And we also have a very large share of culturally protected buildings, meaning that around 30% of the buildings are rather hard to decarbonize because any actions on the building envelope are limited by the level of the imposed protection. So basically, both the multifamily buildings and culturally protected buildings require individually tailored solutions. And we need, as I said, consider both the heating part of the thermal comfort and also the cooling part of the thermal comfort. Thankfully, our National Fund for Environmental Protection and Energy Efficiency recognizes this need and basically creates separate calls for different kinds of buildings, from family houses to multifamily buildings, protected buildings, and also for the industry part. It also has different calls. For the last year, we had a record amount of money delivered to the interested, I would say, applicants, and also we had a record number of applications, meaning that there is a greater interest than the fund can deliver on the market. So basically, their activities are very, very good in terms of enabling the higher penetration of energy efficient devices, also the renovation of the buildings, but also their role is very important in raising the awareness of the general public to showcase what is the goal we want to reach. It's energy efficient buildings and energy efficient technical systems that incorporate large share of renewable energy. On the other hand, what we are missing are more continuous and alternative supporting schemes that are missing on the market, including commercial banks with green loans, including some alternative business models such as heat as service or specified electric tariffs for the heat pumps that would further promote the technology and I would say reduce operating expenditure for this kind of technology. For the new buildings, I would say the perspective is better thanks to the EPBD and ZEB requirement that will soon change to zero emission buildings. That mandates the certain share of renewable energy that needs to be used, and this is where the heat pumps fit very well because they use renewable energy from the environment. Market is dominated by air-to-air and air-to-water heat pump systems, and for the new multifamily buildings, it can be seen unless they are using some kind of district heating system, they opt for the individual decentralized systems, meaning that each apartment has its own heat pump system, which would be, I think, more beneficial for the workforce and for the organization to have more centralized systems. And other technologies such as domestic hot water heat pumps or geothermal heat pumps have much smaller number in terms of the numbers, but they can also be seen on the market, and especially for the ground geothermal heat pumps. For the latter, our faculty, together with colleagues from the mining, geology and petroleum faculty of the University of Zagreb and one private company, we did the screening of geothermal heat pumps in Croatia. This is a continuous process. So far, we have listed around 155 systems. It is not a large number, but installed capacity is significant. And this shows, for example, potential application of the heat pumps, because a large number of water-to-water heat pumps, ranging from over 3 megawatts to, I would say, a few dozens of kilowatts, can be found, for example, in tourist sector. In tourism, we have high demands for cooling and heating. You have very efficient devices. You have very high energy demand. So basically, such technologies that have a large SPFs or large seasonal efficiency are beneficial for I would say, affordable energy, but also for the stability of the energy source, because they are, I would say, they're more stable in terms of the temperatures of the heat sink and the heat source, especially when we are using seawater system. We have a large number of hotels using such technology for the heating and the cooling. Ground to water heat pumps or ground coupled heat pumps don't have such large capacities, but they are also used in different kinds of objects. So to showcase few examples where such technology can be appropriate, basically we can round up that such systems are ideal for buildings that require high specific demand, like I already noted, in tourism or in culturally protected buildings where you don't have option to significantly improve the building envelope. So basically we have a lot of hotels, like I said, on the seaside using seawater as renewable energy, either using wells or with direct intake from the sea. Sorry. This is one interesting example about hotel in continental part of the Croatia that has the largest borehole field in Croatia. I think 1 or 2 years ago, it was put into operation. Almost 9 kilometers of total length of the borehole heat exchangers are installed. Below, I'm pretty sure you all heard about Dubrovnik. Its famous old town has 4 buildings connected to the small system that is also using seawater, taking from the old city harbor. So basically enabling the renewable energy to be used in such, I would say, specific part that is UNESCO protected. Similar examples include such systems installed in hospital. Water-based system, again, used in hospital that was built when Croatia was part of Austrian-Hungary Empire. And one interesting system installed in a museum where air-to-water heat pumps are used, but existing chimney system is used to deliver air to the heat pumps. So basically we don't have intervention of the outdoor units on the facade of the building. This highlights, for example, specific niches where this technology is very, very appropriate for use. I would say that existing systems show that technology has a great potential. Market recognizes the potential and the benefits of the heat pumps. We have skilled professionals that can carry out the installations, but for the larger uptake of the heat pumps, we need more improved and more stable market conditions. We need more continuous and alternative financial schemes because high capex is still a big barrier for the higher penetration of the heat pumps. We have skilled installers and we have great interest in vocational schools, but we are seeing that experienced installers are finding jobs in, I would say, better economies where they can have better paid jobs with their skills. We need to continue raising awareness of the realistic potential of the technology, both for the consumers and for the professionals, designers, and so on. And we need to more put emphasis and focus on technical, legal, and economical solutions for the existing building stock. For protected buildings, for multifamily buildings, this is the area where the penetration of the heat pumps should be greater in order to, I would say, faster approach the renewable heating and cooling sector. Thank you very much, and I apologize for the technical difficulties.
Thank you, Luca. No worries. We managed to follow everything, so everything went smoothly, I would say. You mentioned cooling, and I think it's indeed it's a key topic right now. The more attention it's delivered to this to cooling, how we are going to cool our houses. It's not an issue only for the south of Europe, but it's going to involve more countries at the European level. So I think it's interesting to see how renewable technologies will be able to meet the increasing demand on cooling, and how heat pumps can support on this, of course. But now let's move to the final speaker. And I'm pleased to introduce you to Josip Miskic. He's a project assistant at the University of Zagreb at the Faculty of Mechanical Engineering and Naval Architecture, and is going to provide us with an overview of the role of the urban waste heat in heating and cooling decarbonization from a perspective of district heating. Josip, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Julia, for an introduction. So, as Julia said, I'm Josip, coming from the University of Zagreb, working on a Faculty of Mechanical Engineering, and I'm part of our energy planning group, which deals with some kind of innovative and future energy systems. Today I will present the role of the urban waste heat in heating and cooling sector, but more on the perspective of the district heating and how to utilize the waste heat from urban sources in district heating. So for beginning, the urban waste heat sources are objects that are also using the energy and in same time as a product also release the energy as a heat. So they are usually located in densely populated areas. That means that they are also close to the heat demand, and this which is good from the energy planning perspective. Some researchers show that there is around 1.2 exajoules of low temperature waste heat available in the Europe, and this is approximately 25% of the current district heating demand. Is enough to satisfy 25% of the current district heating demand. We will see in next slides on a case study of Zagreb how much urban waste heat can satisfy heat demand in Zagreb. And to utilize the urban waste heat, district heating system needs to be at least 4 or 5 generation district heating system with a low temperature regime or lower temperature regime. But currently in Croatia, all systems are third generation district heating systems. So we also performed some scenario analysis to check is this waste heat also suitable for integration in these older generation of district heating systems. So different kind of urban heat sources we have. Low temperature heat sources are data centers, wastewater treatment plants that Ivan mentioned. Also hospital have their hot systems that can be the source of the waste heat, supermarkets and power substations. And by utilizing the urban waste heat, we can contribute to raise the energy efficiency and also to satisfy the decarbonization goals set by directives or any other planning documents. How to analyze the potential of the waste heat? It is important first to locate and determine the locations of the waste heat sources, which waste heat sources we have, and then to give them the energy characteristics. Most important, the potential of the waste heat and also the temperature regime of the waste heat. Then also is important to have and to examine the integration technology. Is this heat exchanger only, booster heat pump, or some kind of the combined solution? What is important when analyzing the waste heat potential from urban sources is to know their thermodynamic characteristics, as said, quality and quantity of the waste heat, to know availability and durability. Is this waste heat have a seasonal character when we have peaks and etc., and also to know district heating temperature regime. Using this, let's say, methodology, we can identify valuable and unused heat that can be recovered and then enable to be elevated to useful temperatures for district heating. So I will present our work on a case study of Zagreb. So district heating system in Zagreb is a high temperature district heating systems with more than 100,000 final users. Heat demand is about 1.4 terawatt hours, and network is about more than 300 kilometers. This is a natural gas based system with 2 supply units or 2 combined heat and power units. So we detected the most promising and the most let's say often heat sources that show that are present in Zagreb, and these are the supermarket refrigeration systems and the cooling system, shopping malls cooling system, and also power substations, mid-scale and large-scale power substation systems. And these systems are further examined in our work. So we then, for detected sources, we gave them the thermodynamic characteristics, temperature regime. We determined the temperature regime of each urban heat source, and also we calculated the thermal potential of each source. As I said, we also conducted the scenario analysis for district heating temperature regime. We saw the highest is the current temperature regime, while we also performed analysis for lower temperature regimes because we can expect that in future the temperature regime of the network will be lower. So 3 scenarios were examined, and for waste heat integration technology. We developed the technology methodology that is based on a pinch method with objective function to maximize the waste heat integration into the network. And we can say that there are 4 possible outcomes. So return temperature of the district heating is entering into the integration system, and then if the return if the waste heat source temperature is higher than return temperature, then first we are giving the priority to heat exchanger heat exchange, and then if any of waste heat is still available, then we are boosting it to satisfy the level of the supply flow. So 4 possible outcomes: no waste heat integration, only heat exchange integration, only booster heat pump integration, and combination of the booster heat pump and heat exchanger integration. These 4 possible outcomes are depending to sum up depending on the temperature regime of the network, but also the temperature regime of the heat source. So these are some of the results. I think that slides are a little bit moved. So for supermarket refrigeration system, we get results that there's under this temperature regime current, there is also potential for the heat integration into district heating. We see that more or less that the technology that is dominant is heat exchanger. During the summer, during the summer period, there is a peak of the integration since the temperature regime of the network is lower, and we see that by lowering the temperature regime of the network, we can utilize more waste heat, and that we are also on that way rising the COP of our system. For next slide. For cooling system of shopping mall and supermarkets, we get a little bit worse results. We see that more waste heat is unused, and that there is a more unused heat, but that the dominant technology for integration in case of the supermarket is in current case is a booster heat pump, while if we lower the temperature regime, the dominant technology is a heat exchanger. And in a shopping mall cooling system, we see that the dominant technology is a heat exchanger, and also that we can, by lowering temperature regime, we can achieve more heat integration. This these results for supermarket and shopping mall cooling systems are due to the cooling need, which is only during the summer, and also because of the high peaks of these cooling loads, the results are a little bit less promising. And finally, for power substations, we see that if we lower the temperature regime, there is more unused heat, while if we have a higher temperature regime, the heat utilization is improved. This is contrary to other urban waste heat sources. This is due to the temperature regime and character of the urban waste heat source, and we see that by lowering the temperature regime, the booster heat pump heat pump decrease the share in integration system, while in the other hand, heat exchanger is then rising its share. We see that in all these case studies, the portion of waste heat remain unused in all scenarios, suggesting that we still have some limitations in full heat recovery. So when we are looking from the levelized cost of heat perspective, we can say that supermarket refrigeration and power substations cooling system show best economic results. That supermarket refrigeration system can have a levelized cost of heat from 10 to 70 euros per megawatt hours, and power substations from 45 to 160 euros per megawatt hours, depending on the scenario. As we can remember that I think Ivan said that some threshold for final users and price is 50 to 60 euros per megawatt hours. And on the other hand, supermarket cooling system and shopping mall are not economically feasible solutions due to the high waste heat peaks and their seasonality. So when we are talking about the decarbonization potential, as said, current system is only natural gas based system, and if we convert the potential waste heat from these urban sources, we get the result that about 20% of the current heat demand can be satisfied by integrating these urban heat sources. The dominant technology that can satisfy this heat demand is the supermarket refrigeration system due to the constant load and higher temperature regime of the source. Some key takeaways is that urban waste heat integration unlocks the new potential. As said, 20% of the heat demand can be covered by integrating these heat sources. Supermarkets and power substations offer a reliable and economically feasible solution for decarbonization and also for getting a more energy efficient system. Cost analysis showed that we also performed some sensitivity analysis which show that investment cost has a greater impact than electricity price. Maybe just to theorize that this shows that there is a need for maybe more mature and market ready or standardized technology that can reduce this risk. Regarding some takeaways for Croatia and Croatian case study is that there is generally no recognition for urban waste heat integration for heating purpose. Regulatory framework is also not recognizing the urban waste heat as something that is possible to utilize in district heating system. And I think that this story regarding the urban waste heat also lack funds on a national level. Currently, only only possible way to find the funds for this is from some European funds, more from some research projects, and yeah, that with that I came to the end, and thank you very much for your attention, and also thanks to EGEC for inviting me, and thank you.
Thank you, Josip. And it has been very interesting to see the potentiality of urban waste heat, and above all because it's, as I said, it's a heat source that it's close to the heat demand, so a lot of potentiality behind it. Maybe we can start with the we can move on with the really short Q&A session, panel discussion. We don't have much time, so we'll ask you to be very brief in your answers, please. And maybe I can continue with you, Josip, and was wondering, so you mentioned that one of the challenges, no, it's that the absence of recognition in terms of regulatory framework. Do you see other challenges for urban waste heat?
Yeah. So probably also one of the important challenges is that also operators or owners of the waste heat sources are not familiar with opportunities to further utilize their surplus energy that they are releasing, and maybe also this is one of the key challenges that appears when we are talking about utilizing the urban waste heat. Let's say they are not recognizing the value of the surplus energy that they possess.
Okay, very interesting. Thank you. And continue on this side of challenges. Maybe I will move to Luca. You mentioned some of the challenges that you have, but I'm wondering if social acceptance can be considered one of those for heat pumps. What's your perspective in general on this topic?
Absolutely, there are, I would say, many challenges for the technology to be widely accepted, but I think for economy like ours, it's mainly the economic part of the equation. If you can find the economic basis for investment in something, you will you have higher, I would say, success rate in technology penetration. But that is why I highlighted the importance of raising public awareness about not about clarification about about real technology potential, its limitations, and its, I would say, optimal use, and to prepare the buildings and users for energy transition. If you have something that is slightly maybe different or has new, I would say, new options, for example, for cooling and heating, then you really need to make sure that all this technology is designed well, installed well, and delivered well to really deliver what was expected from it, from the user side and from the, I would say, public or government or technical side of the system.
Okay, thank you, Luca. And maybe going to Martina, you described the financial framework that you defined as transparent for developers. Can we deep dive a bit, and can you tell us if there are incentives for developers?
Well, for the heating purposes, there is no incentives in terms of de-risking the area with drilling of geothermal wells. And this is something that I hope this new European geothermal strategy will cover, because I think to all of us, this is something new. So we have to implement these drilling programs into the financial schemes and to increase the number of wells drilled for deep geothermal in terms of de-risking area, of development area, into more implementation of deep geothermal energy, because all these wells, even for the heating purpose in Croatia, they are not so deep, so the expenses are not so high. They are higher than let's say, in other renewable sources, and the benefits that the geothermal energy provides are much better than some of the sources. So not enough, something is put into cohesion funds in Croatia, and this is mostly aiming the heating networks. But I'm hoping that in the future we will have much more financing schemes.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I'm curious to see as well how this European geothermal strategy will be shaped now. It will give definitely more opportunities at the EU level. And maybe moving to Ivan, so you described some of the challenges that are in place for the decarbonization of district heating sector. But I'm curious more at looking at the measures, the steps that, for example, for your project and other projects that you described to us, put in place to address them. I think it can be interesting for the attendees of this webinar to see at concrete examples.
So I sorry, I didn't understand the question really.
So
what
if
are
you,
the challenges? What are the
yeah,
challenges?
yeah, what you described as some of the challenges now for the sector, but how your project and like D2 Heat, but also the other projects that you introduced to us are planning to address some of these challenges.
Well, the biggest challenge is money. I need to be clear on that. So we provided for district heating operators, we provided all the guidance. So we showcased what is possible, what is needed. So everything is clear. They are now in the phase of detailed project documentation creation, and they are preparing for tenders, design and build, etc. So they know what to do, but the money is missing. And unfortunately, in Croatia, they are heavily regulated. So the pricing or the cost of heat is regulated, and they have cash flow problems, to be precise. So again, if there is no money, no grant component, no financial and funding schemes for them, and I'm not sure that they will deliver on time. But I hope I stressed that more than enough on my presentation. So I'm looking forward what EIB will say about modernization fund and the program we try to set up, because that would really affect and influence the market here in Croatia.
Thank you, Ivan. And maybe concluding with Mathieu. We discussed a lot about implementation. It's implementation time, and but how can the EU support, effectively the local and regional governments in ensuring that correct and efficient implementation?
Of course, our direct contacts are with the member states. So the first thing that we are doing is work with national authorities to make sure that the requirements from the legislation are clear, and that they work with the specific national situation. And so we're working with national experts to help member states work on their strategy to implement. And then to go back to the local level, there are two things. The first one is to have good intermediaries. There are networks like the Covenant of Mayors, EGEC, so organizations of local authorities that have worked on these topics, and there have been projects such as Action Heat, for instance, developing practical case studies for the specific aspects, for instance, of local heating and cooling. And the other element is, of course, funding. There have been projects under Horizon Europe, under the LIFE program, for example, be it on local heating and cooling, or on modern innovation for district heating, to support these things. So we will keep working on that, try to, as much as possible, share good practice, identify good practice. There are 27 different situations with member states that have specific challenges. So more or less all the problems have been faced here and there, and member states are at different or even cities, different stages of this development. So it's about identifying what has worked to make sure that all can see these existing solutions, and then of course help with the financial support. So we are working on all that, including the next generation of EU funding.
Thank you, Mathieu. I think it's indeed probably one of the right approaches to follow, no? Sharing best practices. I don't think we have more time for questions. We are already over time. I'm sorry for this. Maybe just to close the webinar, I just want to promote, and we are sharing the screen. Just to promote you an event that is going to take place in March, between 2 and 3 of March, and I really recommend you to attend it. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, so to the Geothermal Investment Forum in Zagreb, and where we are going to share more about geothermal projects from Croatia, but other EU countries, and there will be also a good occasion for networking and to share yes, more information on project development. So with this, I conclude. There will be another roundtable, but on the Finnish perspective. So I recommend you to, if you're interested, to look at it, to follow us. And with this, I thank you all for joining today, and a special thanks to the speakers for being with us today and sharing their insights. Thank you.